Hey guys, Kevin here. I just wanted to start off this brief video with a quote that I read recently that actually really impacted me. It's a quote in this book by Craig Groeschel called Chazown. No, Chazown. Chazown is probably an Italian sandwich. Chazown is the Hebrew word for vision. And it's really cool. He talks about how to develop a vision, but it's not just so generic. It's actually very insightful. But he quotes this prayer by Sir Francis Drake that's actually become like a prayer that I've been praying. And I don't know the original context of why Sir Francis Drake prayed this. My English aunt sent me a Facebook to talk to me about it. But really, I know the context in which Jesus spoke it to me. And this prayer goes like this. He says, "Disturb us, Lord, when we are too well pleased with ourselves, when our dreams have come true because we've dreamed too little, when we arrive safely because we have sailed too close to shore. Disturb us, Lord." And that kind of goes back to that idea that, Jesus is always calling me out of the boat and to walk on water. And, I think a lot of times in my life and also in my ministry, I've always made sure that I had contingency plans for failure. In other words, I was going to do something unless it got too risky or too costly, or it started to really make me uncomfortable and unruffle people's feathers. And then I would have a contingency plan of how I can sort of back it down and make it more palatable. But really the Lord is calling me to walk on the water. And He's calling you to walk on the water. He's calling all of us to act like fools for the sake of Christ. And so I think whatever place, whatever station in life that you find yourself in, I want to encourage you to live courageously, to live boldly. I really see the church in this day creating a new hero system. People that we point to and say, man, that guy is, he's courageous for Christ. He's doing things that nobody's done. Do you remember one of King David's mighty men? His name was Benaiah. And I love this little phrase it says about Benaiah is that it's recounting how cool he was and how powerful and what a virile soldier he was. And it says this phrase that Benaiah, he was the one, do you remember, that went down into a pit with a lion on a snowy day and slayed the lion? And you know what David was doing is he was creating a new hero system. He was saying this is what we value, that God values people who are courageous and willing to take risks for Him. And that, like we said earlier, faith is spelled R-I-S-K. And the way that God, living a life of faith, I think we've often interpreted that to mean that we study all of these things and then we decide in our minds if we believe those things, and then we live those things and then the implications of those things. But I think honestly, the just living by faith is a lot more dynamic than that. The just living by faith is dangerous. The just living by faith is risky. It's like a rubber band that's stretched really tight. It's like at any moment, God could do something. Something can break out. Jesus would say the kingdom of heaven is at hand. It's right here. And the just live in that way. They live by faith. Sometimes they step out of their comfort zone and do things that they would normally never do. But God says that He justifies that. That the works that we do are justified by faith. And so I would rather be one who lives and has 100 ideas and 50 of them fail than live my life having no ideas and never doing anything, accomplishing nothing because I dared to adventure. Do you know what I mean? And so I really have this in my heart that Christianity is a lot more dangerous than we think. It's a lot more scary. That there is a DNA that God has put in every Christian if you're born again. It's the DNA of the Holy Spirit. It's the person of Christ. We're called Christians, which means little Christ. It's very dangerous. It's very scary. That Christianity, what was it? In C.S. Lewis's book, when the Pevensey children are talking about Aslan the lion, and they're talking to Mr. and Mrs. Beaver about him. And he's talking about the prophecies and how he's going to come back and do all these things. And Lucy Pevensey says to Mr. Beaver, she says, "My," she said, is he a tame lion? And she said, is he safe? And he says, safe? Heavens no, he's not safe. But he's good. And I think we need to remember that at the heart of the gospel and at the heart of Christianity is not a tame lion. He's good to his core, but he's not safe. And so I want to challenge you as you follow Jesus, this wild Messiah, to be willing to take risks for the sake of the gospel. Thank you.